You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced and get happy with Dr. Marissa. And this show is about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So I have shows and topics.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days.
Monday, Tuesday,
Happy days.
Wednesday, Thursday,
Happy days.
Friday, whatever.
Happy days.
What a day. Na-na-na, na-na-na.
I love you.
I love you too.
Best known as the mom from Happy Days, and she is a delightful 89-year young Marion Ross to my studio. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Dr. Marissa, this is such a treat for me.
Oh.
My goodness, you're a wonderment.
Which is exactly the kind of guest that I like. Those who have gone through life, good and bad, and then taken those experiences to alchemize them into the person they are now and doing good on the planet. I'd like you to welcome Corey Feldman.
If you're grateful for it and you say right away, thank you, God. Oh, my God, that's so beautiful. I'm so blessed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Then guess what? More good things will come to you.
Does this sound familiar at all? She's back again to mark my Cancer Awareness and Prevention Month show. Please welcome Fran Drescher. Hi, Fran.
On and supporting cancer schmance. I really appreciate it.
So what would you say are some of the biggest myths, Fran, that people have about cancer?
Well, I would say that they think that there's a cure for it.
Okay.
Instead of a cause for it.
This is the first call-in show when I get to be Dr. Marissa, the kinder, gentler Dr. Laura. And people call in to get their life tires balanced and their critical thinking or their BS, their belief systems, smog checked. And today I am delighted to have Malie calling in from Birmingham, Alabama.
We could go 90 days and end up having terrible sex. And then you say, well, the relationship's not all about sex. Well, if I'm not getting great sex from you, then I'm going to get it from somebody else. Right?
That moose just got put on the table. And I see Josh and Jim.
I have to agree
You're
with Clyde.
both nodding. Ramon's sort of half nodding because his wife's listening. But
I understood what was going to happen if Muhammad Ali's youngest daughter, made public that I was going to become a boxer. So I wanted to make sure this was the path that I wanted to go down.
you are absolutely fabulous, beautiful inside and out. And I'm giving you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award today.
Thank you.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic point.
When I go, I'm gone.
Are you lonely?
No.
Nah, I knew that was going to be
But
the answer.
I surround myself with people. I mean, I'm always the one cooking for things. Or I'm always the one that decorates first and come to my house. All the orphans that have no place.
I'm going to have no place to go, so I
Okay,
can
okay,
come over.
come on over.
And life is so amazing if we can see it.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on CNBC News, NBC News, and NBC Sports Radio station KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Streaker, Spreaker, and I think at last count like 33 other platforms that I am just so grateful to be able to come at you, balancing out all the bad news out there that's so readily available with some good news, good people, and good topics, and good co-hosts. It is Thursday. You'll recognize him in studio. He is my Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorn. Good to see you, everybody, today.
It's so good to see you back in studio. And we're going to start with breakfast as usual, which is taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich. And we're going to make it as quick as possible, isolating all those things with one word, because we did get some people saying we love the gratitude sandwich, but we want to hear what the topic is a little bit more. So we're going to try to laser it today, because today's topic is a bit of a doozy. We are ramping into the weekend. We did promise we would talk about this, and we remembered. I have great memory. My recall sucks sometimes, but it is, should you have sex on the first date? So we're going to get to that right after we do our good life habit, our morning blissipline, which is 8 things that we like about our lives, what we're grateful for outside of ourselves. And then the bottom of the bun is what we like about ourselves, because I like it on the bottom. Here we go. James, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for living in a walkable neighborhood. That's, in a big city, that's not always an easy thing. And as long as I've lived here, my neighborhood has been that, and it's great for me and the dog. So I love that.
Awesome. I'm grateful for a safe drive back from Las Vegas.
Yes, indeed. I'm grateful for, now this is a fun one because I used to hate it when people would do this. I'm grateful for all the people that took videos of the Jimmy Buffett tribute concert at the Hollywood Bowl. The tickets were a fortune. I didn't go. Huge Buffett fan, and it used to bother me. I'm like, put down your phone and take in the experience, but I'm going to turn that on its head. Because of those people, I have been able to live vicariously through them, and they did such a good job filming, and I thank them for putting it on YouTube. So now next time I see that, I'm not going to be so put down the phone and take in the experience. Hey, take it in however you want, just don't block my view with your arm.
Great. I am grateful for my very smart phone. I also get that criticism sometimes, like, put the phone down, enjoy it. And it's like, you don't understand. You may not be able to do both, but I can enjoy it in the moment and later. And a lot of people also enjoy it later because of me. So go away. No. Thank you very much. Okay.
Gratitude with a touch of cranky curmudgeon today. That's
there you go. Right, there you go. Now we're going to go to the bottom of the bun, which is what do you like about yourself? And the reason why we do this, I want you to weight lift and do some reps around self-care, self-love, self-approval, which I believe are the hallmark or the foundation of good mental health. And that's also one of the goals of this show, is to get you to up-level your happiness a little, because I'm on a happy 88 mission, 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years. So what do you like about yourself, James?
I like that you got me today. See, I should have prepared for this one. I like my resilience in terms of just physically. I like to beat myself up a little bit as a personal trainer, and I like that I recover quickly, because it would be quite unpleasant to feel as sore as I do after a workout for many, many, many days. So I like that I have that I've worked that ability into the fibers of my being by just being an active person my whole life.
I appreciate my ability to turn lemon into lemonade, or as I call it, old brown black bananas into yummy banana bread. Case in point, I got lost trying to find a private party that I was invited to at NAB, National Association of Broadcasters in Vegas, that I was reporting live at this last week. And I got like really lost. And in that getting lost, finding the party that I was supposed to be with, I met executives of studios and very high influence, high level people that I wouldn't have gotten to meet accidentally because I got lost. So, live in my, I put my life jacket on with the silver lining every morning, and it totally pays off. So I really appreciate my ability not to focus on what went wrong, but to allow for all the what goes fabulously right in my life. I call them what caught moments. What are the chances of that? Lots of those.
I like that. I read that at any given time, 28% of the people driving through the Hollywood Hills are actually just lost looking for a party, even at 1 PM. They've been looking since the previous night. So, be patient when you're driving in the hills and there's someone going really slow in front of you. They're just looking for their party. But then again, 80% of all statistics are made up.
That is a Stephen Wright that I use too.
I love Stephen Wright. He's
fantastic. He came up with that actually. 42% of statistics are made up on the spot.
Yes, that's exactly right. What happens if he gets scared half to death twice?
Hey,
that's another.
I don't know. A panic disorder, chaos. My work here is done. That's another Stephen Wright. Love him. Go ahead.
Oh, he is hilarious. I whenever I'm having a bad day. So here's something I like about myself. I talked about physical resilience, my ability to pull myself up when I'm down. And it's okay to be unhappy sometimes, to be depressed is part of the human condition. But I love that I can go down a Stephen Wright rabbit hole, giggle at some really silly jokes, and be okay. I can work through it and not wallow in that.
Yeah. I appreciate my ability to be happy where I am 88% of the time. My definition of happiness is having what I want and wanting what I have. And 88% of the time I'm there.
That's right. Speaking of getting lost, you can't be lost if you don't care where you are. If you're having a good time wherever you are, you're good to go. It's like taking my dog for a car ride. He doesn't care where he's going as long as he's going. He's thrilled.
Yeah. That's a good model. That's a good model. All right. And that is it for breakfast with Dr. Marissa and
the bearded wonder, James Hawthorn. I'm deciding how long to let this grow out.
Who are your co-hosts with the most hostess on Thursday mornings with Straight Talk. And this is, take my advice, I'm not using it, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind, 25 years strong, #1 talk in the IE. And we are delighted to have you here with us today. I promise you, if you do take a bite of the gratitude sandwich for 28 consecutive days, you will wrap your day in the most positive way. And we are happy that you've joined us for breakfast this morning. All right, and here we go. James Hawthorn, Straight Talk co-host, who isn't straight himself, but gives it to you straight. What is our topic?
Well said. We're all a little crooked. Our topic of the day is to dance horizontally on the first date or not to dance horizontally on the first date. In other words, sex or no sex on the first date. let's discuss.
There you go. And I don't know if you saw my promo. It dawned on me that some of the younger generation, because I learned from my daughters the vernacular, and dating as a word even is maybe going away, like premarital sex, which is like an oxymoron, more often than not. So we're not talking about the designated hangout or hook up. We're actually talking about a date where one party is interested in the other and would like to explore the union on a longer term basis, not just for a one night stand, and takes you out for a meal or a movie or an event or something like that. When that has been introduced into the equation, do you reciprocate, or do you agree, or do you what did you call it, horizontally dance at the end of that first date? So loaded question. Love having people coming in. I see the eyeballs rolling in the studio. If you're driving and listening to us on AM 1050 FM 106.5, please do not type and text and drive. But when you land, if you go to my Facebook or my LinkedIn, but most importantly, my YouTube TV channel, you can chat there, because we'd love to hear from you, your experiences, and what your 8 cents worth are as far as, do you have sex or not on the first date?
And sometimes those comments, your comments, actually inspire us for our topic for the following week. So you guys really are a part of the show when you chat and when you come in, because it gives us ideas for topics we want to delve deeper into. On
that note, I have to tell you a funny. Yesterday on Doctors in the House, we were talking similarly, and I told her to pop in today if she had a chance, because you guys haven't met. But Dr. Tiffany Tate and I, we were talking about rules of engagement after you start going out. When do you introduce to family? When do you go on vacation? When do you say I love you? Right? Which is the after effects of what we're talking about today, when to have sex. So isn't that interesting that we picked that topic? So when I was on the show, I was talking about when do you know there's something really wrong? And I was explaining this woman that's been a long time listener, watcher, supporter of the show. And I actually did some relationship coaching with her about her and her husband. And I'm going on about, that experience. And she's on the stream, but because I was in Vegas doing it on my phone, I couldn't see that she was on the chat. And here I am talking about her, and in a good way, right? But she was there the whole time. What caught, right? What are the chances of that?
Right. I want to thank you, by the way, for putting parameters around the conversation, because obviously we're not talking hookups and hangouts. That's implied that's exactly what you're going to do. But in the dating realm, do you do it or not do it? And I'll kick things off by saying that for the most part in life, I like to avoid hard and fast rules, because it takes you out of living in the moment. How hard? Hard as possible. Oh boy. Getting late early around here. Yes.
It is Thursday.
Oh boy, I should have had iced coffee instead of hot coffee this morning. I'll tell you what. Hard and fast rules are tough, because I think it takes you out of the moment. It prevents you from having a wonderful, spontaneous experience. I like to think of as rules more as guidelines, if you will.
Okay.
So I'm going to start by saying that my take on it is flexible.
Okay. Now you just got a finger on that. Someone gave you that, not that finger, but this finger. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, for most men, and this is based on, I haven't done the research, but I will. My experience with most men, especially now that I'm started dating again. I've been sticking various parts of my body into the dating pool. And I've noticed that many men who I do feel a connection with of some kind, and we haven't met for a date yet, right? I will get some pushback around having to go to the traditional path of a date and then dating several times before, hitting that pleasure zone early. And I also will go out on a limb and say for many women that I have either coached or talked with, or, we get on this topic, are on the opposite end of no, because right, if you go in too early, literally, or they go in too early, literally, then the expectation is set that this is pleasure first, commitment second. Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Slightly going to sort of piggyback on that and say that on a first date, there's so much information and experience that you're gathering from the person, how they carry themselves in conversation. Do they have two ears and one mouth and use them proportionately? Are they funny? Are they curious about you? And there's so much that you can go home with and digest and kind of let that marinate. And sometimes it's a little bit, it can be stimulus or sensory overload to do everything and the kitchen sink on the first date, because then you have all this stuff to process. And like you said, maybe then you've also set this expectation of pleasure first instead of commitment. So that's my argument for con. Now, my personal argument for pro is, call me shallow, but if the sex isn't great, there ain't gonna be no relationship. So let's find out and move it along, or move on. Move along the dating and knowing that, okay, we can check that box. Sex is good. Let's have another date. Or sex isn't good. Nice to meet you. Let's be friends. Yeah. So that's my argument for, because I know how I am in relationships, and the sex has to be really good, period.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't disagree with that. However, there's a whole level of BS belief systems that go along, especially for the woman. If you do give in or want or allow or let the desire take over and fulfill on that first date, for many women, that is something that the man or the I shouldn't say men and women, I'm being very traditional here around coupling. But every time I say that, please know that I am, just representing from my standpoint. But whoever that one person in the partnership, right, who is seen as the one who should hold out, okay, whoever that is, you traditionally has been the woman, that if you don't hold out, if you don't say, let's take it slow, or, thank you very much, and let's build up the suspense here, then you are seen as loose, or you do this with everybody. This is not that important. So as a woman, to go with the flow or go where the desire takes it, or not put rules in there, there's a consequence.
Right.
So
I mean, and I think that's true for men too. Even if both parties are feeling it and want to do that and have sex, on that first date, I think almost in a weird way, we don't always want what's good for us. And sometimes we might want it, but then kind of subconsciously, we're sort of judging the other person for taking us there, for wanting to go there. on the first date, and we're saying, well, you know, they don't really have a lot of class if they were willing to just get naked and, you know, get to it on the first date. And sometimes you can paint yourself into a unfavorable light or into a box by choosing to behave in that way, to pursue it on the first date. Now, what other people think of you is none of your business, but let's be honest, you do have some control over how people are going to perceive you, because there's consequences to your actions. And why not, you know, choose behaviors that create consequences that are more likely to be positive? Like, I would rather have somebody think I'm slightly prude than a slut. So that can be
hopefully JD had his finger on the button. We have to be really careful.
That's one of those words. Okay.
Yes.
Understood. Still cutting my teeth in the radio world here with FCC regulations.
But I'm sure JD caught that. So I absolutely agree that and I was trying to think of how to use the like Santa ho 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 word, if that was on the list or not.
Ooh, yeah.
But better to be known as you were saying, prudish or a little old fashioned than a horn dog, which I can't say.
There you go. That's a good one.
Or a ho ho ho. So we're on the same page around the consequences, and it may not be fair, but it's really interesting now that I have been in this dating world since January 18th, but who's counting? And the only reason why I remember that's the day I landed coming back from Australia, where was the impetus to begin dating again, not because Australian men are hot. I'm not saying they're not. But, you know, that whole experience of traveling alone, which I usually have, I love traveling alone, but I, for the first time, saw that there might be some benefits of synergistic happiness in sharing traveling with somebody. So that's.
Oh, I mean, I understand completely. You went to Australia and you came back feeling things down under. You said, man, I got to get into that dating pool. It is time. It is time to get out there and get going.
Wait, I got to give you some applause for that. That was just too freaking. And if you've just tuned in and you're wondering what the heck's going on today in studio, this is Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show on NBC News Radio, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course my YouTube TV channel, which houses all 1,148 shows now. And you are tuned into my very popular Thursday series called Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorn, the very naughty today, James Hawthorn.
Yes, very naughty today, who is not straight, but will give it to you straight. That's your new tagline that I made up, by the way. And he just made us super funny that the reason why I started dating after returning from Australia was I started feeling things down under. That's my new tagline for my dating life. Thank you very much, James. And we are tackling the subject of to sex or not to sex on the first date.
How Shakespearean of you. I love that. You know what? I'm going to stick with the sauciness and give a personal anecdote. I'm just going to open it up today. So a few years back, I'm having a date. Get ready on that button. Get just. Get ready on the
button. I'm gonna go get a drink. I'm getting like.
Sounds good. I'm gonna give a little personal anecdote here. So a few years back, I have a date set up, and we were being sort of wishy-washy on what we were gonna do. There were plans. Hey, let's go out and do like an early happy hour dinner, and I'm like, well, do you want to come with me and walk my dog? You're a dog person. Just come over. We'll figure it out. So they come over. The plan was to just go for a nice long walk with the dog, have dinner, get to know each other in the normal order or sequence of things. But let's just say that the chemistry was explosive in a good way. It was immediate. And let's just say that the dog did not get a very long walk. And we come back to my place, and I mean, the connection was just palpable. And earlier I talked about living in the moment and not having a hard and fast rule, because in that moment, the chemistry was too good not to. So we flipped the order. Not only did we have sex on the first date, it was sex before dinner. I mean, we barely got through the dog walk. We were just all over each other. And I have to tell you something. You out there might judge me and call me a ho ho ho, but I have to tell you that the dinner was one of the best conversations I ever had. And I think on a date, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that we got that other big thing, the elephant in the room, out of the way. We're like, well, the sex is great. Now let's get to know one another. And we had just the most fun time. We were laughing and really connecting. And, for the time that we dated, it was really good. And we sort of repeated that pattern, and it allowed for a lot of great sex before the event, and then the event, whatever it was we were going to do on that date, and then sometimes more.
So why did it break up?
What's that?
Why did it break up?
He was in an open relationship that quickly became, so this actually led to me making a hard and fast rule, which I said never to do. In an open relationship where the partner got really jealous because they could tell that we were forming a really close bond. And after that, I just said, this is way too complicated. No matter what chemistry there is, no matter how, I cannot go and date somebody that is at all involved. And so, I was trying to be open-minded and say, well, I don't want to judge them. I don't want an open relationship when I, start dating somebody. But I don't want to judge them for doing that if that works for them. But I definitely put myself in a very difficult spot that only could have ended one way. And I don't want to enter into a dating scenario where there's a 99.9% chance that I'm going to end up, on the short end of that deal. So that's another topic. We may have talked around that many talk shows ago, but the idea of open relationships versus closed and what that means
and throupling. Yeah,
that's a full one. That's a loaded
throuple. Yeah. Now, so many things, many ends of the stick, so to speak. We could go on this one. My assumption is that because he was in an open relationship, that the traditional ramping up to having sex, and that, that would be my pro for not having sex on the first date, because there is something delicious about the anticipation, right? Anticipation is making me wait. Do it, right? So you lose that if you are getting horizontal so quickly. And because he was in an open relationship, that was like a normal thing, maybe, if I would to make that assumption, that he's allowed to or has permission to have fun and be as hedonistic as he wants to be, which again, if that's cool for you, great. Not cool for me. I don't think that I could do that either. So for you, that was a good learning thing. But you're one of the first stories I've heard where doing it like that way is looked back on as a positive thing. Because if you think about it, you ask someone, so how did you meet? I love asking people, how do they meet? Because I think it gets them in the best place possible. If the relationship's good, it brings them back to that first moment. And rarely is it not said with some embarrassment to say we met and, had a one-night stand and it turned into a relationship. right? That's usually not something said with a lot of pride. It's kind of like a little embarrassing. So there is that slant of, if you do have sex on the first date, 99% of the feeling behind that is afterwards not positive, like a little
People
tinge
definitely,
of shame.
yeah, people definitely have that, but I don't think that's necessarily healthy or good, especially in this country. When you go to other countries and you see what is allowed on TV, less so now, but go back 20 years, like nothing racy was allowed on TV. And we have so much guilt and shame around all kinds of different sexual scenarios. And I think it really can affect us in a negative way. I think it's best sometimes not to think so much about what it means and just give ourselves grace to say we are sexual beings, and to act in a way that's in your best interest, but not carry the baggage of shame and guilt around sex with you in your decision making process, because I think a lot of that shame and guilt is it's a societal phenomena
Religious.
that's permeated our both our consciousness and subconsciousness.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I believe that we have set ourselves up for unnecessary shame.
Mm-hmm.
That religion has played a big part in that, taking something as beautiful as an orgasm, as beautiful as intimacy and coupling, and the most intimate act you can have to join two people together, and made it dirty. And because of that a BS belief system that is something to be, it only belongs in a place to procreate. It only belongs behind closed doors. It only, blah, 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 all these rules that add to the assumption or the shame that I just spoke about, which is bullshitaki. That is the side that is up to us to regain back, or take ownership that it is okay to have pleasure. It is okay to have pleasure in orgasms. That is normal and okay. And because we haven't done that, then we get the extreme aberrant behaviors, or the acting out that go to the way, the thruppling, or I just made a judgment, but I'm just saying all of the things that are aberrant to the extreme, like I'm reading on profiles, I just connected with someone, and at least he said right off the bat, I have some kinky, desires, and I'm like,
right,
whoa, and, thank you, good luck. But and then another said, I'm into BDSM, or, I'm like, thank you very much. So, but it's my BS, my belief system, that if we could take back the beauty of sex and
yes,
orgasms and intimate relationships, then we wouldn't be so,
shameful,
ashamed, right?
yeah.
But I'm going to go out on a limb, and I may get in trouble for this, but the shame that leads to wanting to have pleasure in a weird way that is not respectful, right?
I understand what you're saying. I want to actually maybe help define that a little bit more. I mean, I certainly don't want to kink shame or fetish shame anybody out there, because I do believe that, to a degree, kinks and fetishes are all part of like the sexual world, as human beings. But studies show, for example, that people that watch a lot of pornography, they become desensitized. We talked earlier about this idea of stimulus overload, and how maybe on a first date, sex and dinner and all the stuff you learn about the person could be stimulus overload. With pornography, the more that people watch, the higher their threshold for stimulus becomes, and it leads to more kinky sex, for example. And I think a lot of that comes from the shame part of society. And I think that a lot of us would be a lot happier if, like you said, we could take back just the beauty of sex, because there is beauty in it. And the other thing I wanted to say is, if we're going about dating by a certain rule book, right, we're losing that power of the moment. And how much great art would we not have if it weren't for people getting caught up and lost in the throes of passion? Think about these songs that have been written and the way that the songs make you feel when you hear them. Think about artwork that's been inspired by people just getting caught up in the throes of passion. I think that we have to at least allow ourselves that possibility, even if logically we come to the decision that it might not be the healthiest or best for us. I think it can be really detrimental to completely remove that from the realm of possibility. There's something beautiful about two people being like having this connection, this chemistry, and then having that experience. So that's why I want to kind of bring it back to what I said at the beginning. Really, really not a good idea to have a hard and fast rule around it, because there's something so powerful in that moment, because people have been singing about it, painting about it, making movies about it since the beginning of art.
Yeah. You got a heart on that one. So if I were to go to the other side of it again, which is what the great thing about having this show is we get to go at any angle and go to the other extreme, is if you do have sex on your first date, and this is my cynic talking, like I'll say the best date is the first date, and it's downhill after that.
Unless you found one of your matches, that, because it's not the one, but if you found someone that you can vibe with, then it gets better and better. But in my dating experience, more often than not, the first date's the best one. And then you start to learn more things about that person, or then you do get to sex and you're like,
yeah. But I would say that in my new, dating pool experience, I'm trying not to see it as negatively as that. And I would not want to rob myself of the wonderful, delicious runway of feelings getting to that point of consummation, which would be like really missing that opportunity for the runway if I did have sex on the first date, because then it's like, okay, well, that's done. And it was really great. And then I'm chasing that maybe, and obsessed. Plus I've heard, and I was just trying to pull it up, they've done gender studies, men and women, on what is released chemically in the body when sex happens. And it's different for men and women: estrogen, testosterone, all of the happy also hormones that really bond the woman to the man. And that's going to be an issue if you're doing it on the first date and you don't know much about that man or your partner, regardless of the sex. Then you are putting yourself in a pretty precarious position, because you're now, chemically attached to them in a way that, if you had used your head instead of watching that head, you might not have, you'd be smarter about your attachments. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I liked how you started that by saying, you don't want to rob yourself of the runway leading up to that. Good morning.
Good morning,
Cecilia.
Cecilia. Remember I was telling you that little story, James, earlier?
Oh yeah, here she. Okay.
That's Cecilia. Cecilia, I
Lovely
just
to
told
see
you
you,
a story
Cecilia.
about what happened, that what caught moment yesterday, and I'm back in the studio, so I know that you're there. Oh, I don't know when my new sound engineer said this, but he said that's a great point. So whichever one he was talking about, I don't think I can put this in the comments, but anyways, we're talking, if you've just tuned in, like Cecilia, and you're wondering what's going on in the studio today, this is Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, home to the Asian Oprah, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course my YouTube TV channel, home to 1,147 podcast shows, but who's counting? We are talking today about the ups and downs and the ins and outs of having sex on your first date with my wonderful Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorn. It's a very multi-directional show today. Ups and downs, in and out. We're everywhere. We're everywhere.
Mama's got a squeeze box.
We were so focused on talking about sex on the first date that we didn't really look or talk about all the beauty of that runway that leads up to it. There have been times when I've gone on dates and I wouldn't initially feel the urge to merge, so to speak. It would be lovely conversation, and we'd hang out, but there'd be other things that I really thought were interesting or liked about that person. And, we'd go on a few dates and then we would end up having sex eventually, but it would be unexpected. It would be a moment that sort of snuck up on us. And then it ends up being this wonderful surprise. And here I am ready to put this person in the friend zone. And then all of a sudden we discover that, wow, there actually is really good, sexual chemistry. And that's a delightful discovery. Just as it's delightful if you get caught in the throes of passion to allow yourself to do that, and to have that on the first date. So it really goes to show that operating from a rule book can rob you of a lot of beauty on both sides of the coin, in terms of how you decide to engage with sex on the first date or not.
Yeah, I'm going to set the intention that when I come back, if what's her name, Shirley MacLaine is correct, and we do get a chance to come back and live another life. I don't like research as a rule, but I would love to come back as a researcher of lust and the role of lust in relationships. And Cecilia was talking about butterflies. That belongs in that category. Like, is lust even a good thing? Is it a reliable indicator of relationships? Is it something that I know some researchers that say the whole desire and lust is not a good indicator at all of whether a relationship is good or not. And yet, swipe or no swiping, right? We're making really quick decisions based on how a person looks, whether you're attracted to them based on the looks. And I'm like at a 300 swiping left versus one swipe right, that kind of ratio, because I have very particular, like when I see a look, I'm very attracted to the butt chin, the strong jawline, high cheekbones. Got me into a lot of trouble. You would think that I wouldn't have that rule for being attracted to based on the millions of dollars I got to give my husband, who did have that look. But that's unfortunately, I am very swayed by that. And then if I meet them and they have that look and they also have the intelligence and the success and all of that, that is my entree point. But is that even an accurate entree point?
It's interesting when you talk about, lust and, right. Technically, it's one of the 7 deadly sins. But when you really look at the 7 deadly sins, there's lust, pride, gluttony, sloth, the others. Some of these things are just part of human nature. And believe it or not, I'm going to go out and say all things in moderation. Sometimes we need to be lazy and be, take a day, right? Sometimes it's okay to have a little bit of envy, because envy can motivate us to make change in our life and go out and get things. So I feel like all of these urges and desires are all part of George's marvelous medicine that make us human. And I think it's our duty to balance these parts of ourselves so that we're not denying ourselves any part of the human experience, but that we don't let one, take command of the ship. You don't, there's a reason there's Gilligan in this. You don't want Gilligan navigating the boat, through a, iceberg field, right? You want the skipper doing that. So you want to have Gilligan on the boat, but you don't always want him driving it. So I think when you think about some of these, what some people might call base desires, we have to allow ourselves space and room to have them to be fully human. But it's our duty to try and find that balance that allows us to thrive in relationship with one another. And that includes when we give in to lust, when we hold out to enjoy that runway and have a more intellectual falling in love first, where we really feel this camaraderie or connection, or this idea of building a friendship, so that the sex is that much better when you do have it. I think that we need all of these things, and it's just finding that, but get balanced, right? That's right. I think the moral of the story when it comes to sex on the first date. Where are you at in your life at that moment? Have you been having sex on a lot of first dates, and do you need to try something different and slow it down? Or have you not let yourself give in to the throes of passion when you've had those feelings? And is it time to take a walk on the wild side? I think it depends where you are in that moment on your journey.
Yeah. Great advice and great recommendations. I say this at the end of every show. It's all about balance, right? That's my, I spent some time with a consultant early on in my career, and I had all these, I was confused as to, I have all these things that I do and I love doing, and messages that I love giving. And so I'm feeling like I don't have some cohesion. So I literally gave him all of the stuff that I speak about. And he, at the end of 2 hours, said, "You're all about balance." And I went, "Oh, wow." And then this past week in NAB, National Association of Broadcasters in Las Vegas, I got the chance to hear Jennifer Hudson on stage. She got an award for the Jennifer Hudson Show, and I got to actually have a little interaction with her after, which was great. It's on film if you want to see it on my social, Doc Balance at Instagram. But she talked about balance like almost the entire time. So life is about finding, I love the serenity prayer, because, the courage to change the things I can. So, doing something different than you've been normally doing, as you were saying, and serenity to accept the things I cannot change. So accepting that other side, so finding the balance of where you are. So for me, you just called me out, because I grew up extremely religious. Necking was from the neck up, and you don't have sex on the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth date, right? You have to get a marriage proposal before you actually even consider having having sex. And really, you're supposed to wait until you get married. That was an extreme that is not useful, I believe, as a heuristic, as a rule for relationships. But then to go to the other end and just hound dog it, right? But my balance is, I have said for so many years, I cannot see myself having a one-night stand. I cannot see myself as having meaningless sex or uncommitted sex. I cannot see myself, and I would judge people who did. And so for me, it's been a really good experience going, let me try that.
And I don't think a lot of people necessarily go into it thinking it's going to be a one night stand. They go into it hoping that there's going to be other dates, especially if the conversation is good and the sex is good. But sometimes one night stands happen by accident, and a lot of people, I've found, this is my gripe, need to get their shiitake together, and for whatever reason there's not a third date or a second date, and they'll say, oh, my life's a mess, or oh, I'm not over so they're all scattered. And I then go, well, okay, let me make sure that when I set up a date with somebody that I'm in a good place and can give them and it a chance, give the bond a chance, and make sure that I'm not going on a date when all I'm capable of in that moment, because my life's so chaotic, is just hanging out or having sex. So I think it's important to be kind of clear with yourself and with other people where you're at and what you're looking for. And sometimes I don't think people really know. And then they find themselves in a position where they want to be able to date, but emotionally, whatever it might be, life chaos, they're not able to give that back. And that can be really frustrating. And that can lead to unintentional one night stands when one party might want there to be more. So like you said, balance.
Yes. I want to ask you a straight question here, since
Sure.
It is straight talk. Would you say it is more likely, if you do have sex on the first date, is it more likely to help the bond or hurt the bond?
I mean, I think that's what we've been trying to get to the bottom of the whole show. I think, like I said, it depends where you are on your journey. If you've been going down that hound dog lane and you haven't experienced the richness of building up that runway, and you go down that hound dog lane again, I think it hurts it. But I think if you have balance in your life, in your heart, and you value doing the other things with that person as well, even if you are having sex early in the dating experience, it can help it. Because let's be honest, there has to be, for most people, there has to be good sexual chemistry. So once again, I think it all depends on whether the parties that are getting involved in sex or no sex on the first date are in a state of balance when they do it, and not just scratching an itch.
Got it. It all depends on whether you're wearing Depends. No, sorry, that was not even. Anyways, we are at the end of our time now. It goes so fast when we're chatting, when we're having some straight talk. We so appreciate you joining us today, before, during, or after this episode. This has been a scintillating episode of Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
Your saucy co-host, James Hawthorn.
We're so delighted. Join us every weekday, Thursday, and then, of course, me every weekday morning. Tomorrow is, I have a very special guest coming tomorrow. He was on last week, and he's coming on his own. Ricky Rebel. He was discovered and signed to Michael Jackson's label. He was on Britney Spears' tour. He has great presence. He's been voted best and worst dressed on the red carpet. So he'll be back tomorrow as my guest co-host. So you'll want to come for that. Giving another 2 tickets away for this Sunday's performance at the Saban Theater for Al Stewart, The Year of the Cat, if you remember that song in Time Passages. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from my living room with James Hawthorn and Straight Talk, wishing you the best day ever. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace.
Have fun, everybody, but do it from a balanced